And I'd like to welcome you all to today's 1:30 p.m. session with the Prevention of Blindness Society of Metropolitan Washington, where Rachel will be discussing reading resources on the iPad. I'm going to read our disclaimer before we get started. The WildTech DC Senior iPad program, its owners and presenters offer technical assistance, virtual health, well-being information designed for educational purposes only. You should not rely on the information, any apps or topics made by WildTech, including but not limited to mobile device applications and any social media pages maintained by WildTech, its owners, or presenters as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, treatment, or legal advice. Thank you so much for letting me read the disclaimer. If you cannot see us, hear us, or see the screen, please let us know in the chat. We would really appreciate that. Let's make sure to keep our TVs and cell phone silence to make sure we give ourselves the most immersive experience. And as always, make sure you take notes and or screenshots so that way you could review the information later on if you would like. Besides that, again, make sure you stay on for our poll at the end to let us know how you felt about today's session. But again, Rachel, if you could introduce yourself and your topic for today, we'd really appreciate that. And thanks again for coming on our sessions.
My pleasure. So good afternoon, everybody. My name is Rachel, as was indicated already, and I work with the Prevention of Blindness Society of Metropolitan Washington as a resource navigator in the Low Vision Resource Center. I work in the Alexandria location. POB currently offers a resource center in both Alexandria, Virginia, and in Bethesda, Maryland. The POB headquarters are located in DC and are under renovation. Once that building is completed, and it's about a block from Union Station, there will also be a resource center available there, but currently that building is under renovation. So given what it is that we and I do with POB, this presentation is adapted from a presentation that was given to our low vision community on reading resources in general. How does somebody who is experiencing significant vision loss that classifies them as low vision or blind read and access information, print information in a different way? So that you're going to notice that some of what I'm talking about is that. But I'm going to cover some things that can be very useful for anybody using an iPad, especially as a senior, because as we age, whether or not we have an official diagnosis that classifies us as low vision, many of us are experiencing visual changes. So a lot of what we're going to talk about hopefully will help all of you, even if you are fortunate and still have highly functioning vision. So with that said, I'm going to talk a little bit about how we can read documents, books, news, and magazines using our iPad instead of print material. So it's not only very convenient because you have your iPad in your hand and it's very portable, you can take it anywhere with you, but also sometimes print material can be difficult to read. Font sizes might be smaller than you like. Quality of print can be challenging for many because if you take a newspaper as an example, the contrast that you get in a newspaper is very poor. It's poor quality paper, poor quality ink, and you end up having sometimes a difficult time reading it because the letters just aren't clear to you. So the iPad is a wonderful way to overcome those limitations and also be very flexible and have things easy to transport and read. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So I want to start by showing you a few features within your iPad that will make anything you're trying to read a little bit easier. Now, please, somebody, Alexander, if this has already been covered in a previous session, stop me and we can skip it. But there are ways within your iPad to modify your font size, so your default font size, and even change the contrast so that instead of, you can reverse things, you can invert things. So instead of it being black on white, it's white on black. Have you been shown those things before? Can somebody?
Oh, hey, Rachel.
Yeah.
Everyone's just muted, by the
Oh,
way.
yeah. Can you let me know if that's
Yeah,
already been covered?
yes, but what I found is, for anyone, repetition is key to
Okay.
definitely learn those concepts. So,
Okay.
yes, we have a session where we do talk about some accessibility features, but definitely an overview or review, or a highlight.
Okay.
Maybe
Okay.
some new
Good.
features are great.
Okay. Great. I just didn't want to, since I haven't been part of this, I didn't want to be repetitive. Okay.
Oh no, we love it. Thank you.
Okay. So I am going to share my screen.
Mhm.
And now, okay. All right. All right.
Yep, and especially with some of the features, especially with some of Tara's session last time, sometimes for the specific features, if you adjust those in the iPad when you're sharing your screen, it won't mess up the meeting, but it may kick you out of the screen share. So that's
Oh, okay.
yeah, so
Good to
that should
know. If that starts happening, let me know. And also, I know when I am in Zooms on a computer, my accessibility doesn't come through the Zoom. So, like if I have my screen enlarged, people who are I'm on Zoom with don't. So I don't
yes.
know if the iPad's going to work that. So you may or may not see all of it, but where I am right now is I'm in my settings. So hopefully you can see my settings.
Yep.
And I am going to go down. The first place we're going to go is there's an area called display and brightness. So when we select display and brightness, the first option that comes up is appearance. So you will notice that I keep my device in what's called dark mode, which means that all of the Apple specific apps that I use, such as mail and text and notes and anything that's Apple specific, my screen, I have white letters on a black background. So I don't know what you are seeing in my screen share, but what you should be seeing are my settings with white print on a black background.
Oh yeah, that's unaffected. Even if you switch it now, it won't negatively affect the Zoom too.
Okay, good. So let me just show you the difference. So I keep my device in dark mode because that's my preference. If I switch it to light mode, that is the more traditional look that many of you probably have, which is black letters on a white background. So it's something to play with and see what you prefer. I'm going to show you in a minute another option where if you like the dark mode for some things like reading, but you prefer the light mode for everything else, that is fine. Keep your device in light mode. And on the fly, you can always switch by something called either classic or smart invert. They do this pretty much the same thing, where you can just switch your look on the fly app, on a specific app or on a specific website or for a specific email or whatever you want to do. The difference, FYI, between classic invert and smart invert is just that in smart invert, Apple attempts to identify images and not invert them. And it does a pretty good job. It's not perfect. But so if, for example, you're on a website that has a picture, if you use smart invert, it will invert the words. So, anything you're reading will be white on black, but the image will stay hopefully true to color. It's not, like I said, it's not perfect, but it does a pretty good job, because if you use classic invert, those pictures look very odd, kind of like an x-ray. You lose the picture. So anyway, so that's light and dark. The other thing you can do is, the next item down is text size. So within text size, you will see it says apps that support dynamic type will adjust to your preferred reading size above. So you can adjust your text size Now, my text is getting a lot bigger than yours will, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But you can adjust your text size, and that way, I don't know if it's changing for you, but that,
It is. It's changing the same way you would if regularly. So it was really huge and
yeah,
it looked
perfect.
the same. So that's good because this sometimes adjusting like the text size can affect the zooms. So it's really good that
Oh,
we're
good, it's working.
doing this
Yay.
together. So
Okay, good. Good. I'm glad it's working. So you can adjust text size to your liking. So, even if those of you who are on this Zoom today aren't officially low vision and don't, like me, need it that big or even that big, you can make it a little bit bigger so that it really helps you. Now, the reason that my text size gets significantly better than yours does on your iPads is because I have enabled extended text sizes in the accessibility features. I'm assuming that most of the people on this call do not need that, but if you do, it's available to you. And if you need help with that, if you are a person that needs the text size expanded beyond what your iPad is set to naturally do, please call us at POB because that tells me that you would benefit from some meeting with us on a low vision. We can help you with that one-on-one. Okay, because I don't think most of the people on this call probably need that. So you can adjust text size. The other thing you can turn on, if it's helpful to you, you will notice that I have my text bolded. It just makes it a little thicker. So it's personal preference because of my vision loss and my low vision. Having things bolder helps me see it. So that's another thing you can change. So these settings, and then brightness as well. So you can see, as you adjust your brightness, you may have an easier time reading things. The brightness can also be changed in the control center, which I'm assuming you've been showed.
Yep.
Shown. And you can do text size in the control center too. So these are all things you can access through the control center. But I just wanted to show you this because anytime we're trying to read on our iPad, regardless of the apps that we're going to talk about, some of these settings can be very, very helpful. The other thing I will mention to you and just show you very quickly, I want to mention that not all apps are created equal. So when I mentioned earlier that we can adjust our text size and whether we like dark or light and bolding and all of the things I've just shown you, they work really, really well when we are in an Apple app because the apps on your iPad that are Apple specific are built to work with these settings. So as an example of that, if you're reading your email on the Apple email app, all these settings that you've worked here will work beautifully. If you're accessing your email through another third-party app like Gmail or like I don't know,
Yahoo. You've got
Yahoo, or wherever you're getting your email, the settings that you have created, you set up for yourself may or may not work properly. So if you've made your text large, for example, it may or may not come through the way you want. And likewise, a lot of the apps that you might be using, they may or may not function well with that dynamic text. So I, in fact, often have to go in on an app specific basis and decrease my text size because the letters are all jumbled up and on top of each other, and it's completely the app is completely not functioning with my text size. So just be aware of this. This is was if the app was built to work with this, it's great. If it was not by the app developer, then it can create some frustration. So I just want to give you that little forewarning.
Oh, well, yes, thank you for bringing. I was gonna mention that as well. Apple apps versus third-party apps are gonna work differently based on these, and even with the apps that you do use, if you adjust the text size, if you make them bolded, etc., it may affect that app. So it's just all about just testing it out and seeing what goes on. But I love the dark mode. It's I just believe in with me with my visual thing going on. I use the dark mode because it's easier on my eyes.
Yeah,
Looking
me
at the
too.
black screen and the white letters versus the white, especially at night, because the bright light at night doesn't allow you to go to sleep as fast. So
Yeah,
especially at night, I make sure my device is on dark mode. Even even though they say things about using your phone before you go to bed, I'd rather have the dark mode, and it helps you go to sleep faster, etc. So there
yeah,
are a few
yeah,
benefits,
for
but I
sure. And the other thing that I'm glad you brought that up, because that's the other thing to mention is that, you know, the there is a mode called night shift. And you'll
hmm
see, I've put this up. You will notice that I have my night shift off. And the reason for that is because I have low vision and because my ability to function with my device is directly related to the brightness and whatnot. I prefer to control it myself as instead of letting the algorithm built into Apple make those decisions for me. For many of you, you might like night shift because it does exactly what was just said is, at night it lowers the brightness and it can shift you into the dark mode, because it's easier on the eyes and all of that. So that is very much personal preference, but something good to know. The other thing I want to just briefly make you aware of, because it ties into what we were just talking about, how some non-Apple apps may not work the way you want them to with your preferred settings. I'm not going to go into other accessibility features, but I want to draw your attention to one thing here. If I click accessibility, I'm going to click on accessibility, and we're going to skip the rest of this. But if you need help with the rest of this, if you need it, that means your vision is such, please, please, please feel free to reach out to us at POB and we're happy to help you. But if I scroll to the bottom of this accessibility area, you will see something that says per app settings. Do you see that? It's all the way at the
Yep.
bottom. So if I click on per app settings, you will see that if there are certain apps that you always want to have something a little bit different, you can set that up. So as you can see, like Angelica is a movie theater in my neighborhood and their app is terrible. So I've kind of customized it. Facebook, I'll show you that, for example, too. So I have always, I like, I've got the default. What have I done to Facebook? I don't remember. I think, oh, here it is. No, let's see. What did I do? Maybe it's working now. You know why I had this? I had this before I put my device into dark mode. So I was able, right now it's on default. But as an example, if the app doesn't have the dark mode built into it directly, I could, for a specific app, either pull the font size down, or I could turn inverts on, like classic invert or smart invert on. So it's just a way here. This app that's exactly what I did. Okay, so if I'll show you. So
It's
I
really cool. It's like a
yeah. So you can
accessibility
see,
per app.
yeah, so you can see on this particular app. So I have my phone in dark mode. This is not an Apple app. This is a third-party app that is not particularly accessible. It does not work well with with the apps, my default settings. So what I have done to be able to use this app is I have put smart invert on. So if you see, smart invert is on, which means if I open that app, it's going to open as if it's in dark mode, even though it wouldn't do that on its own. So, and similarly, if you run across an app, like here, larger text, if you run across an app, this happens sometimes. So if an app was developed not to use dynamic text, then nothing happens to the text size. So it might be smaller than you like, but it's not going to misfire. if an app was built to work with dynamic text, but they didn't do a very good job of building that, or like me, you've got the text size so big that it just completely jumbles the garbage, the text, you can go into larger text in the per app settings and dial it down. So it's just a way to, I want to just bring that to your attention so that if you do adjust some of the things we've talked about in display and text size, and it's making a non-native app misfire, it's a way to change it on an app by app basis, and it remembers it. So you don't have to, every time you get into that app, go back into your settings and turn something on. Okay. So, and the only other thing I will bring to your attention here is the one above it is called accessibility shortcut. So what happens there is the shortcut is a menu that comes up when you triple tap the, I don't know if it's going to come up when I'm in settings. Let's see if I triple tap. Yeah, there it did. Do you see my accessibility shortcuts that popped up?
Yep, yep. We see
So,
the
yep.
menu.
So you will see that if you're somebody, I'm gonna close it again. If you're somebody that likes to be able to flip to have a white print on a dark background on the fly when you're trying to read something on your iPad, and it's just a little hard and you'd rather have that white, you'd like to switch, you'd like to switch it from, dark to light, you could make your accessibility shortcut, you could turn on smart invert. And, I have a few things picked, but you would, put a check mark next to smart invert. And if you only have that one thing selected, when you would triple tap, depending which model of iPad you have. So if you have a home button, you would triple tap that round home button. If you have the side button, you would triple tap the side button. And if you only have that one thing selected, it'll just pop you back and forth between smart invert and not smart invert without having to go into your menus. So another just kind of little tip. All
Oh,
right.
I just tested it out, and all of us have either a seventh or a ninth gen, so all of us should have use the triple click the home button when you set that up. So I did the smart invert, and then I triple clicked the home button, and it did it automatically, which is great.
Yeah, yeah. So mine comes up with a menu because I've got several things that I like to use. But yeah, if all you're going to do is try to switch the font, not the font, but the coloring, so to give yourself more contrast, which is what that's doing, or to make it just easier on your eyes, less glare. You get a lot less glare with white print on a black background than you do black on white. So if it may just make reading a little more comfortable, not be a necessity like it is for me, just more comfortable. So that's all I want to say on the settings. I just wanted to make sure, because I'm going to refer to some of these settings as we're talking about some of the actual reading resources that we have. So I just wanted to make sure that we were all on the same page on that. So hopefully that is
Thank you so much for going over actually on the iPad and showcasing these different settings. I learned quite a bit myself, and I really appreciate that. There's always so much to learn about the iPad, especially with each new update and upgrade to the operating system. These settings are just only going to get better as time goes by. So
Yep,
um, thank you so much, Rachel. I know
of
you mentioned
course.
I know you mentioned it a couple times, but so folks can record it and down. Can you put in the chat the your guys' phone number, any
Oh, sure.
contact information?
Sure, I can. Let me just make sure I do it right. Hold on. It's one of those things like, how we never call ourselves and we never call our family members, so we don't remember what their phone numbers are. Hold on a minute. I know
Yeah,
it ends with 4444, but I'm going to make sure I give you the right address. Okay.
yep.
So,
I'll
okay,
be
here
able
we
to type it in for everybody as well.
Oh, you want to type it in if I just give it to you as opposed to me
Yeah,
getting in the chat? Okay.
yeah.
So this phone number is a hotline. So you can call it and ask questions, and you can also, make an appointment to come into the resource center. Now the resource centers are really meant for people with low vision. So, if you qualify in that category, please, please, please. Okay. So the number is 301 951-4444. So if that can go in the chat, that is great. Okay. So now we'll get into what you actually came for, which is reading resources. So we're gonna cover a few of them. I do want to say that how we use these resources is going to be very dependent on our own individual needs and our own individual preferences. So there isn't a one size fits all for any of this. So I am going to skip magnification because we're going to talk about the iPad. So we've already talked about how we can make things bigger using the font on the iPad itself, as opposed to using an external magnifier to magnify what you're reading, like a newspaper or a book. So that is a whole nother discussion. If you want to be able to explore that, please, please, please contact us and we can just explore that separately. So we can visually enhance what we're reading, what we're attempting to read using our iPads. And there's a few ways we can do that. So one way is the Kindle app, or, there's also a built-in app on the iPad, Apple Books, and which has books and magazines. I am going to admit that that is something I have never personally used because my needs are such that isn't what I work with. And when we're working with clients and patients, we're typically talking about Kindle. So I'm going to skip that, but I do want to mention that it's there. So it's something that you may want to try out for yourself. But
Rachel, have you
yeah,
heard of the Libby app before?
Yes, I'm gonna get. We'll talk about Libby for audiobooks, right?
Yes, we've extensively have used it in our sessions and
Oh, good,
well. So
good, good, good.
I know that's the one that our seniors have experience with. I personally haven't used the Kindle app in such a long time, but Libby
Okay,
is one of the main apps that we've learned about.
okay, good. Oh, that's good to hear. Yeah, it's interesting. I was gonna mention Libby with respect to, Libby is the provider of a lot of audiobooks that you
Mhm.
download through the public library
Yeah.
system. So, but I personally am not familiar with Libby on its own.
Hmm.
So, but it sounds like you've done that, which is great. I could learn something about that from all of you.
Hmm.
So many of us that are actually print disabled, which I was going to just talk about very briefly at the end, get our audiobooks from the Library of Congress, from the National Library Service for the blind and for the print disabled. So we don't use Libby because we get or Kindle or Audible because we get our books through the Library of Congress. But that's for a unique subset of the population. So the Kindle
That's
apps,
interesting. I
and
love
I
it.
can talk a little bit about it. If anybody on the call has a print disability, it's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful service.
I,
That that
yeah,
it's
share the
great.
link in the chat as
Yeah.
well.
Okay, very good. All right. So what happens on the Kindle app is that let me open my Kindle. I never use it. So let's hope I have a book that I can actually show it to you on. But I'm going to as I'm
Are you going to share your screen again?
yeah, I am. So as I am sharing my screen, I'm going to kind of tell you a little bit about what you can do on the Kindle app. So, okay. Let me get in out of
I love
here.
this. This is a lot of fun, Rachel. Thank you so
I
much.
don't know about, okay, so let me get into my Kindle app. Okay. All right. So Kindle is and my husband and I share a library. So a lot of these books you're seeing are actually my husband's books. But Kindle is the ebook through Amazon, right? So if Amazon sells Kindle devices that are, ebook readers, and they also have a free app that works on your iPad. And so when you use the Kindle app, let me just pick the first book and let's hope, oh, it opened. Okay, good. Um, when you use the Kindle app, you're getting a digital book that you purchased through Amazon. So unlike Libby is free. Um, you're not getting free ebooks through Amazon. Of course, Amazon is a for-profit business, so you're buying them. They do have some subscriptions that that gets you. Like if you're an Amazon Prime member, they have some books that are free, and some that might be $1. But other books like new releases, you're going to be paying. You pay less than you do for a print copy of the book, but you're still paying for it. Whoops! Hold on. You're still okay. Here we go. I'm trying to get to the top of my Kindle screen, and I
When you
clicked
tap
on.
on the Zoom box yourself, right, it takes you back to Zoom. You
I
can
know. So, and it was up in the right corner. That had jumped to the right corner, which is where I needed to get for Amazon. All right, for Kindle. So, I moved my Zoom box. So now, hopefully, can you see the top of my screen?
yes, and if and you know you can minimize yourself if you want by
Yeah.
dragging the box if you want.
Yeah. No, that's a good idea. Okay. All right. So, yeah, I minimized. My box was in the wrong place. It was right where I needed to touch.
You can drag the box to the right. If you
Yeah,
drag
I did. Yeah, I moved it.
right,
I moved it. Yep. Thank you. So you'll see that I've opened a book, Daniel Silva's The Marching Season. And so when I get to the top of the screen, you'll see there are two A's. If I click on that, I can do a few things. One, I can pick a different font. So if the font that the publisher selected isn't to my liking, I can pick a different font. So I have picked I like the bold, Amazon Ember Bold, because as we spoke about previously with my low vision, the simpler and bolder the font, the better. But, for just for fun, let's make it Bookerly. Okay, so now if we go to Bookerly, you can see that the font changed. Um, the other thing we can do is we can, I'm gonna let me move it up so that you can actually see print. Okay, we can change the font size. We can make it bigger and we can make it smaller.
and we see that too.
And the other thing, you'll notice that there are themes. So I have picked, there's a low vision theme, which I picked, which is why I have the white print on the black background. But we could pick, maybe I have the white print on the black background because I'm in dark mode and and the Kindle app is complying to that. But what happens if let's try something. All right. All right. It's not working because so the Kindle app clearly is taking my dark mode into account. So it's got me in dark mode, but the standard is not dark mode. So when you would first open your Kindle app, it would put you in dark, black letters on a white background. But the point of this, of showing you this, is to say that with the Kindle app, we can get a book. They also have magazines, and we can adjust the font to our liking. So, and I don't know, can you do that in Libby as well?
Yes, they have very similar ones. You can adjust the background itself. You can have a white background, a black background. You can have like a yellowish, brownish background that you just adjust within the app. So, it's good that you're showing this. I think some of the more well-known companies and providers, their apps are going to be more likely to be using the settings that you have on the Apple device. So these really
Yep.
well-known apps, they're going
Yeah,
to use those, which is really
exactly. And so so just know that if Libby is working great for you, then we don't need to spend any more time on Kindle. That's great. um if there's a book that you're just really dying to read that's not available on Libby and you want to purchase it through Amazon, know that the Kindle app will work on your iPad. I think we can probably leave it at that. Some books within so I guess I would just leave it at that unless anybody has any questions or you think there's something else to cover there.
Oh, no, I love this different option. Many of us may have an Amazon Prime subscription, so they could utilize this different app. It has different materials and just another resource. So I shared
Mm-hmm.
the link to it in the chat, so you all can
Perfect. Thank
check out
you.
this app if you would
The
like.
other thing is, I don't know what happens in the Libby app. I know that when we are, for at least the audiobooks through the public library system, are often limited. So, for example, if there's a very popular book and you're wanting to check it out through Libby through the public library, they often limit how many copies they allow to be out at a time. So I don't know
Yes.
if it is it this, it may or may not be the same for ebooks through Libby. If it is, this is a way to read something more quickly and not have a time limit on it. But again, I don't personally use the Libby app for ebooks, so I can't answer that question. But it's just another option.
No, yes, it's definitely like a checkout system, but it's free. But have the options there, so there's just many different ones to take advantage of. So
Exactly.
I'm really glad that you covered this.
Yeah, very good. Okay, so that's books. So if we're wanting to read a book on our iPad, then and some magazines as well. I know you can get. This is the Kindle app or the Libby app is a great option. Another option that when we talk about newspapers and magazines, um, many publishers offer an app. So if you are already a subscriber to a publication, I'm going to close my Kindle. If you already subscribe to a publication, they may have an app that you can get access to be able to read that publication on your iPad as opposed to in print. So I'm going to show you the Washington Post as an example. It's just an example. You would have to you would have to do the research for the publication of your choice. But here's the Washington Post. I'm a subscriber to the Washington Post, so you can see it. So you will see that the Washington Post has been designed to work very nicely with the Apple accessibility features. So I am able to see, I can see today's news stories, and I can search for past stories as well by any number of categories. I am going to show us something that is hopefully not going to be upsetting to anybody. So should we do style or sports? Let's see what we find. Let's do
Let's maybe tech.
tech. Okay, let's do tech. Anymore, picking just the front page can be fraught. Okay, so all right, here we go. So here's the tech section of the Washington Post. Now it's so interesting. I can see that when I was showing you my font sizes, I settled on a font lower than what I normally use, but that's okay. It's probably good for this presentation. So as you can see, this is showing me today's tech, the stories in today's tech section from the Washington Post. And it's giving me the headlines. And this is in my preferred font. So it has adapted to the size font that I have selected. So it's bigger than what you would get if you just opened it on without the font size being adjusted. So if I pick this first story about Amazon, so I have no trouble with my vision reading the headline. Amazon was hit by a Teamster strike. Okay, so if I click that, here's the article. So here's the article. I can read it visually, and you can see that it has adapted to my dark mode. I'm in dark mode. It's in dark mode. If I was not in dark mode, it would be black letters on a white background, and it's in my size. So I can now visually, if I wanted to read this article. For those of us who that's a struggle for, or you might just want to multitask. You might want to read the paper while you're doing the dishes or, whatever. They also have an option. Most articles within the Washington Post app have a listen option. So if you, and they recently actually changed the look of the the app very recently. It used to be up in the upper right hand corner, there was an icon that looked like ear headphones. But if you noticed, right under the headline is a listen option. Now I'm going to try it. I don't know what you're going to hear doing it this way, but let me turn my volume up and
It
see.
probably will work. It probably will
Have you
work.
tried this before? All
Uh,
right.
yes.
So here I go. We're gonna listen to this article. Ready? Here we go. It's
Introducing
loading.
Instagram teen accounts.
Yeah, we
A new
hear
way to
it.
keep your teens safer as they grow, like making sure they've got the right gear for writing.
Knee pads.
Check.
And helmet?
Done. See you, Dad.
New Instagram teen accounts.
Oh,
Automatic protections for who
it's
can
playing an
contact your
ad.
teen and the content
Yeah,
they can
but it's
see.
cool. We
This
can
news
still hear
story
it.
was written by
Okay.
Lauren Coyote Gurley and Caroline O'Donovan. Amazon hit by Teamsters strikes during holiday rush. The work stoppage is not expected to halt Amazon's vast logistics empire, but it could delay packages in some major cities. The Teamsters launched strikes against
Okay.
7
I don't
Amazon
think we need to
warehouses
hear the
Thursday,
whole article.
in the
I just
union's
wanted
biggest
you to.
action yet,
Oh.
against the nation's second-largest private employer, threatening to delay some package delivery during the busy Christmas season. Workers formed picket lines in the early hours of the morning at sites in New York City, Atlanta, San
All right,
Francisco,
now I've got to
Skokie,
get it
Illinois, and Southern
There we go.
California.
Stop. All right, so I was able to stop it. So now you can see my screen, and you can see that when I clicked the little box that had play, I can fast forward, I can rewind, I can also adjust the volume. We can we can also with the slider move around in the article. And if you see at the bottom, I've got it set to 1.25 times. I could, so you probably heard it was reading a little bit fast. That's because that's how I like to listen to it. But you can slow it down and you can speed it up. You can go up to 2 times and as slow as 0.75 times, which
The suggestion otherwise is just another lie from the Teamsters, said Eileen Hards.
So there you go. So that is a way to read visually and also to listen. Now, this is available to people who already subscribe to the Washington Post. Other publications that you may already subscribe to likely have a similar option. From an accessibility perspective, it's hit or miss, different, just like every other app we discussed, we talked about earlier. In terms of accessibility, apps are only as good as how they've been developed. Not all apps are going to have a listen option, as an example, but this is just an example of one way to access a publication. So that is what I wanted to say on individual publications. Did you want to add anything to that?
No, I love going over that because even though if you use another app, the functionality, the navigation is very similar. Many apps have the speed up or slow down options, or the fast forward, rewind using the slider to adjust where you're at in regards to listening to the audiobook or article. So it's very, very similar. I think one thing I just may want to ask, and what we've talked about many times before, is podcasts. We love
Yep.
the podcast app. What is your opinion?
Yeah, I was going to get there. I agree 100%. So we can jump to that if you want, and then I'll come back to what I was going to say next. But
I feel like we're on the same page. I love it.
Oh yeah. So the podcast app here, it's funny. I never listen to podcasts on my iPad. I always do it on my phone. So I don't even know what's going to come up. Let's see. Let me move this out of the way again. Okay, hold on.
And just because your keyboard is so, so much.
Oh yeah. I'll tell you about the keyboard. The keyboard is, it's not a free keyboard.
Yeah, it's a third-party app, right?
It's a third-party app.
Yeah.
Because I have a hard time seeing the standard keyboard. So again, if I have a couple of keyboards that there's a couple of third-party keyboards that are available for somebody who has a hard time seeing the regular keyboard, but they are not free. So I have yet to find a free one on the Apple, on the App Store,
No.
that's good. So
It's good because with Android and those devices, they can get a little out of hand with what comes with it. So I think it's a pretty good thing, but I think the keyboard will just improve as time goes by.
yeah, but it's not the Apple standard keyboard for somebody with a visual impairment can be a little bit challenging. So that keyboard that you see me using on my iPad is called Keeble, Keeble. And last I checked, well, when I got it, you know how they always change these things. It was a one-time purchase of about $25. There's another one here. I can show it to you too. When we're out of this, I'll show it to you. Called Big Keys. That is like $2.99 a month. And interestingly, I think Big Keys works better on the phone than Keeble, but Keeble is better on the iPad. So because I have them both, I use Big Keys on my phone and I use Keeble on my iPad. But again, my needs are very different than most of you that are on this call because I have a pretty severe and significant visual impairment that classifies me as low vision. So it's not a matter of want, it's a matter of need for me on some of these things. So, you may not need to spend $2.99 a month or $25 to give yourself a more accessible keyboard. And I will also say that sometimes, like any other add-on app, sometimes those add-on apps misfire and don't do what we want them to do because they're not native to the device. So there's sometimes some downside risk to using those. So we are now in the podcast app, and there are lots and lots and lots of free podcast content on the podcast app. Like I said, I normally listen to it on my phone, but this is how I access, my first access point to the news every day is I have a few favorite news podcasts that I have in my feed that every morning when I walk my dog, that's what I listen to. I have the news on, and it's a way for me to kind of keep me up on the daily news. There are I've gotten hooked on more series than I'd like to admit. Everything from, there's one called Slow Burn, which is a really fun one that's talked about different eras of history, different major events in history. Lots of true crime podcasts that
that's so
suck you in, that just suck you in. So it's a way of I was the focus of a recent podcast myself. If you want to learn more about my personal story, there is a local podcast called It Happened to Me. It is a podcast created by two local women from the Washington area who have a podcast on rare diseases. It's called It Happened to Me. I'm Not Alone, and neither are you, and either are you. And the podcast, each episode focuses, they're either talking to a researcher or a physician, or they're talking to somebody who has a rare diagnosis. So if you're thinking, why is she low vision? Check out It Happened to Me. I don't know. I was like 2 or 3 episodes ago. It's about me. I'm the guest on it. So there you go. But the bottom line is that there are many thousands and thousands of options on podcasts. Most of they're all typically free, although many of the podcast providers, organizations offer subscription level where if you subscribe, you get additional content, or if it's a series like we were talking about, like these true crime series or whatever, and you getting sucked in, you get early access. Like if it's going to be it's kind of like you're watching a series on Netflix and they issue one one episode a week, and you just can't wait to get that next episode. If you pay them for the subscription, you can get it earlier. I personally have never subscribed to any of these podcasts providers, and I get great information, on all these free podcasts. So it's a great way. And a lot of publications too have their own podcasts. So like we had the Washington Post earlier. The Washington Post has a daily podcast called The Seven by the Washington Post. And they're kind of highlighting what they believe kind of the top 7 stories of the day are. The New York Times has a whole bunch of podcasts. So if you have a publication and either a news or a magazine publication that you really enjoy, it's highly likely they have a free podcast that you can listen to as well, whether you're a subscriber or not. So that's kind of all I would say on podcasts. Did you want to add anything to that?
Oh, no, I love your spin on the app. And I actually shared your link to the
Ah,
podcast you mentioned. It's amazing. You're famous.
well, no, I don't know how wide a viewing audience that podcast has, but
But
yeah.
it's just
I
so
did tell my
interesting.
husband that though. He's like, ooh, he had to be nice to me that week because I was, whatever.
No, I love it. The podcast, I mean, you can learn anything. I love the Pioneer Woman, cooking, true crime, tech, science, uh,
Yeah.
sleeping podcasts, mental health ones. There's really so many different options, and they offer the same of the features like you talked about in the Washington Post app when you play and pause and move throughout the podcast and
Yep.
adjust the speed as well. And it's just a great way to learn different information just by looking at the browse or the charts or just seeing what's popular these days. You may find a new love out there.
That's right. The sky's the limit. The options are just endless. And typically each of these podcasts, they're often like, the time is great too. Like they're a snippet. So you're not, you can listen for a short amount of time. And then if you look, any podcast will have, you can select more information. And when you do that, they'll have links to items that they have discussed, or maybe a link for further information. Most podcasts have a website. So most podcast creators have a website as well. It's really, again, I have some favorite podcasts, but it's just endless. Getting, this group of seniors, you might, Julia Louis-Dreyfus has a podcast that I love. It's called Wiser Than Me, and she interviews women, older women, about kind of their life and their history, and their take on things. And then she has a discussion with her mother at the end, and it's just really, really I think, a wonderful, wonderful podcast. So if you're on here and you're interested in hearing, that one, I very much recommend Wiser Than Me with Julia Louis-Dreyfus. So that's kind of it on podcasts, I think. But the other thing I wanted to mention with respect to publications, and it's, again, this is not free, but I wanted to bring it up because if you are someone who is a real avid reader of magazines and newspapers, this might be something that you would enjoy. You can do it for 30 days for free, and then it's a little bit expensive, but I've played with it a little bit. I'm still in my free 30-day trial, but I kind of wanted to see how it worked for our low vision community from an accessibility standpoint. But can I close the podcast app? We're good on that, right?
Yeah, no,
Yeah. Okay.
thank you, Rachel. We have about a few minutes left.
Okay,
So,
perfect. So I think this is it, publications. And then, well, let me just mention that because I do want to show you guys an app. So I'm not going to show it, but I will just mention that Apple News Plus is a way for 12, it's $12.99 a month, so it's not inexpensive, but it gives you access to, I don't know, it's like 400 plus or something like that publications.
Mhm. Yeah.
So it's a way to have one subscription and get access to oodles and oodles of other publications. So, everything from Time and People and National Geographic and Vanity Fair and the New Yorker, the Wall Street Journal, Newsweek, you name it. And so when you open an article on Apple News Plus, it's on your iPad. Because it's an Apple app, it modifies and beautifully to your default settings, which we've talked about before. And then they've curated some narrated articles. So they have articles that are read by a live human, as opposed to what you heard on the Washington Post, which was machine generated. Although in my opinion, it's pretty good machine. It's a pretty good voice. But so not everything on Apple News Plus is available in an audible form, but the articles that they choose to narrate are narrated by a live person. The last thing I want to show you, there is an app. If you have trouble reading documents, I wanted to bring you, show you a free app. So in other words, you get mail, or you have a magazine, or I've brought a box of rice I have here that maybe the printing is so small I can't read the cooking instructions or whatnot. There is an app called Seeing AI. I'm going to open it up.
Yes, we've
Have you done it before?
no, but we've definitely had other like visual specialty folks come on
Short
and
text,
and,
page
and
4
talk
of
about
9,
it.
884 words
Oh, we
to
can hear it.
focus.
That's so
Okay, yeah,
cool.
okay.
Document.
Do you not want me to cover that, or do you?
Oh, no. We've never seen it. We've just mentioned it.
Oh, you've heard it. Okay. So
Yes.
right now
Top
it's a
edge not
camera. So right
visible.
now you're seeing my screen of my camera. I mean of my computer.
Right edge not visible.
I've got some notes up on my computer. So
No
you can
edges
see,
visible.
but okay. Anyway.
Yeah,
Okay.
but
So,
it reads it
Bottom
even
edge
like
not visible.
screen to screen is
so
reading.
yeah.
I
No
So
love
edges
it's called,
visible.
and I know we only have a couple minutes, so I'm going to go quickly.
No edges
It's
visible.
called Seeing AI. It's a Microsoft app. It's absolutely free, and
No
it has
edges
a
visible.
number of functionalities.
No
The
edges visible.
first is short text, and when I click this button, it's going to drive you crazy because it's going to talk like nuts. So on my phone, I've rearranged
Left
the
edge not
channels so it
visible.
doesn't open to short text because it makes me
Hold
crazy.
steady.
But here you go. Here we go. I'm turning on short text.
Processing.
Oopsie, wait, no, I think I put. Oh wait, hold on. I did the document.
Bottom
reader.
edge
Let me
not
do short
visible.
text.
Short
But
text.
that's a cool feature too.
Near
That
East.
I'm going to show
Couscous.
you. So do you
Mix.
hear it reading
Roasted
me what's
garlic
on
and
in
olive
front of
oil.
it?
Short
Yes.
texting. Near
It's
East.
it's
Couscous.
reading
Mix.
what
Right.
Roasted garlic
So
and
short
olive
text
king.
is great
Near
for
East.
exactly that.
Couscous.
You
No
want to
edges
read a price
visible.
tag, you want to read a sign, you want to read a
Right edge
business
not
card.
visible.
But the only problem with it is if I
Hold
had
steady.
moved my iPad around, it
Processing.
would jump. Oh, I put it on. Okay, I put it on document reader. Okay, so now, I kind of don't want it to go without me. Okay, let me
Product.
put it on. It just goes.
Product.
Okay. The other thing it has a barcode scanner. So if you don't know what something is,
Processing. Near East couscous mix roasted garlic and olive oil.
so it told you what was in this box, right?
Oh,
Did you
that's
hear it?
cool. Yes, we heard it say it and we see
And
it
then it has
right
more
now.
information. So it also has more information about this product, which we can see visually on the screen in our default font. But also, I'm gonna stop it, but I'm gonna let it read for a moment.
Near East couscous mix roasted garlic and olive oil. Near East roasted garlic and olive oil couscous mix. Flavors
so it's
with other
reading,
natural flavors.
But
Cook.
it also has AI built in, so we can ask it a question. So in fact, I'm gonna dictate a question to it. Ready? We're gonna say, it's not letting me dictate.
Yes, when you're on Zoom,
because we're on Zoom. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say, how many servings?
The document does not specify the number of servings.
Oh, okay. They don't have that built in. So with the barcode scanner, I'm going to show you this on the document reader. The barcode scanner is going to give you whatever information has been provided by the manufacturer. So the manufacturer obviously didn't include that information with that barcode, but let's get back. So what I want to show you next is we're going to take a picture of the back of the box. So we're going to do the document reader.
Document. Hold steady. Processing.
All right, so here is what was on the back that I just read. So we can tell it to read.
Nutrition facts: about 3 servings per container, serving size 2.0 ounces, 56 g, about 1/3 cup dry couscous and 1/2 TBSP seasoning mix. Table start.
All right, I'm going to stop
Next
it.
row: calories.
So
as
here I
packaged.
can ask it a question. Let's say how many calories.
There are 200 calories per serving as
Okay.
packaged and 250 calories per serving as prepared.
Let me ask it another question. Let's say, what are the cooking instructions?
The cooking instructions are as follows. Range top directions. 1. In a medium saucepan, combine 1/4 cups water, 2 teaspoons olive oil or butter, and contents of the spice.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so again, I could have had it read from top to bottom, and we would have gotten there. It would have read me, if we look at this, it would have read me all the nutritional facts, and then it would have given me the instructions and all of that. But what's nice about Seeing AI is that from a reading, it has some other functionality too that we don't need to talk about. But those 3 features, if you are having trouble reading something because the font is bad, or whatnot, it's a way to take a picture of a piece, something that's printed, be it a piece of mail, be it a newspaper article, be it a magazine article, be it like we just did, a box of something. It doesn't always do great on something round. So like a can, it's hit or miss on. And it also, if you notice, there's handwriting. I don't know if I have anything handwritten here, but there's a little icon that looks like a pencil. It does a nice job of reading handwriting as well. So if you get somebody sends you a holiday card and they have terrible handwriting and you just can't make it out, try Seeing AI. Maybe Seeing AI can decipher it for you. And it does a pretty good job. We've tried it with different types of pens and different quality of handwriting, and it's pretty good. So this is just another option on your iPad to read, not necessarily print, a book or a magazine or a newspaper article or a website, but a way to take print material and make it a little bit easier to read visually, because it adapts to the option that you've set on your device for yourself, or to read it out loud to you. So to make it a little easier, give your eyes a break, or multitask, right? Do 2 things at once. So that's really all I had to cover. The only other thing I was going to bring up are some of the free services for accessing books and publications for people who have a verified print disability. But maybe we will skip that because we're running low on time, and I don't know that it really is applicable to anyone on the call. So if there's anyone on that's applicable to, that would like more information, we can certainly provide that through the hotline number that we've provided to you.
Top and right edge is not visible.
Thank you so much, Rachel, for this app. I just shared I shared a couple of minutes ago the link to it in the App Store. So again, it may be helpful for everyone as well, but also your friends and family and everyone in between. And it's a great resource for, again, not just yourself, but for others as well. I love that demonstration. That was so interesting. And we really appreciate all of the different items that you talked about today. The podcast, the display and brightness settings, that was, again, a great review. Just some of the different functionalities and navigations is so, so important. So really appreciate that, Rachel. Any questions or any comments for Rachel today before we end? But just make sure you stay on for our poll at the end. But any questions or comments for Rachel today? Anything you'd like to share before we end for today? But that was an amazing session, and make sure you all check out the session on our channel so that way you could review it as well. Hey, Anne, hope you're well. What would you like to share for today?
Well, I got in from the doctor a little minute late, so I missed some of it, but I really appreciate this. Rachel, explaining this and showing this to us. I'm having a cataract issue, and so some things are blurry on one side. So thank you so very much for explaining this in the level that other people can understand.
Oh, Rachel,
I'm
you're
glad.
muted.
Yeah, I know I had muted myself. I'm glad you found it helpful. Thank you for that.
Yes, I did. And great presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. Anyone else would like to share? I see your comment in the chat. Miss Dolores, thank you. Yes, this was certainly an awesome session. And Rachel, just see if you have any direct messages on your end as well, if you have any in your chat.
I don't know. I haven't been monitoring the chat because I've been talking.
Yeah, so check out the chat, see if you have any direct messages. But any other last comments or questions for today? But Rachel, this is not the last time we're going to hear from the Prevention of Blindness Society. We'll be hearing from Tara next month as well. So we really appreciate the information today. Before just seeing if you have any last hands, but Rachel, do you have any last thoughts or comments or any last parting words for today?
No, I thank you for inviting us. I know you really invited Tara, my colleague who is out of the country right now. So she asked me to fill in, and hopefully I did POB in her justice. But we're here if anyone has low vision and needs help. That's what we're here to do. And again, thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you. Yep, love the comments, you all. Let's all make sure to stay on for our poll for today. But let's all say a big thank you to Rachel for presenting our session today. Happy holidays, Rachel.
Happy holidays.
Thank you,
I'll get
Rachel.
out.
Happy
Thank
holidays,
you.
Rachel.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
Come
you.
again.
Happy holidays.
Happy holiday.
Holidays.
Merry
Very
Christmas.
great
Holidays.
job. Bye.
Oh,
Please
wow.
come
Okay.
again.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and get off.
Thumbs
so you
up, girl.
Very
You
good
did it.
job, Rachel. Very
Very
good
good
job.
job,
you.
Rachel.
Very
Good
good.
presentation.
Thank you.
Come
Thank
back
you.
again.
Alexander, I'll get off so that people can be honest with their poll. How's that?
No, it's okay.
Thank you.
Get off my
No,
plate.
Rachel,
Vicky,
thank
get off my
you.
class.